Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for joining me for another Westworld review. Today I will be discussing Season 1, Episode 9, The Well-Tempered Clavier, and as always, there will be episode spoilers. So I thought this was a very solid second to last episode for the season. I still feel like the show is holding back on us a little bit, but I guess that's to be expected as they want to not give us everything so we have something to look forward to in the finale. The last 10 to 15 minutes of this episode, I have to say, were really good and quite shocking, to be honest. Unfortunately, I did have a few issues with a few of the storylines and scenes in this episode, but for the most part, it was another really good episode. So we start with Maeve and Bernard, and Maeve basically reminds Bernard that he is a host. The rest of Maeve's scenes in this episode were okay. I thought they felt a little bit contrived and a little overdone, but others may find them to their satisfaction. Basically, Maeve goes to visit Hector. She tells him exactly how a scenario will play out. They also open the safe that we've seen in other episodes, and when Hector finds out there's nothing in them, it really changes his perspective as a host. And then there's this kind of odd make-out scene with Maeve and Hector. It was a little over the top for me, but like I said, others may have liked it. Um, Also, we get some more of the Teddy, Man in Black, Angela scenes, and I have to say they were well done, but a little bit disappointing in my mind, as I thought we'd get a little bit more of this storyline with Wyatt this episode. Basically, Teddy has flashbacks. Flashbacks were definitely a common theme in this episode. One of the flashbacks includes killing Angela, who then basically does him in, so I'm not sure where Teddy stands in the show at this point. She also knocks out the Man in Black and wants to hang him, but when he wakes up, he cleverly escapes. We also get a short scene with the Man in Black and Charlotte, and it's just about her intentions to replace Ford. Like I said, the scenes were well done, but it felt like we could have gotten a little bit more out of this storyline this week. Maybe next week in the finale. We'll have to wait and see. There's also a short scene with Stubbs looking for Elsie, as he's been suspicious about what happened to her, and he's basically attacked by some hosts, and I'm not really sure of his fate at this point either. But in my opinion, the two main storylines in this episode were Dr. Ford and Bernard, and Logan, William, and Dolores, and I will start there with Logan, William, and Dolores. So basically, we find out that Logan's improved his standing since we last saw him. He's basically like a general or in charge of all these men that he was left with. He's arguing with William, and at one point, to prove his point, he stabs Dolores to prove that she's a host. But he doesn't like it when she attacks him back with a knife. She basically slashes him across the face and runs away. I will get back to Dolores in a little bit. So at this point, he decides to let William go because Logan, let me just say it in a nice way, isn't the smartest Westworld character of all time. And William basically tricks him, acts like he's on his side. But of course, at this point, we learn it was predictably all just a setup by William, and he basically threatens Logan to help him go find Dolores. Um, we also get some scenes that are very important with Bernard and Ford. And basically, Bernard forces Ford to tell him about the past because he's not believing a lot of what he's saying. He also uses Clementine for this, the original Clementine, not the second one that we got last week. It was nice to see her back, but he basically tells Ford that he's programmed her and that Clementine will do what Bernard wants. So Ford basically has no choice, or at least so we think. We should have all known better, really. That so Ford does give the past. We get more flashbacks to Bernard with his son, which are effective and somewhat touching. But the most important thing about this is something that I've kind of suspected for a while, that Bernard is actually a recreation of Arnold, or is Arnold, or however you want to look at it on this show. Sometimes character definitions are kind of strange. So basically, Bernard's upset about everything that's going on, and he wants Ford killed, and he tells Clementine to shoot Ford. But of course, Ford was really in control of Clementine the whole time. This was a test to see if Bernard slash Arnold would be partners with him again. And when Bernard refuses, Ford basically tells Bernard to do himself in. And that's what appears to happen at the end of the episode. It is also notable that Dolores is part of these flashbacks, and to end her story for this episode, we see her with a vision of the Man in Black. There's been another theory going around that William and the Man in Black are the same person, and that still may or may not be true, but it definitely looks possible at this point. So overall, another very interesting episode, really well acted as well. The last scene was pretty shocking. Really didn't see that coming in the Ford Bernard Arnold storyline, and definitely a good setup episode for next week's finale. So I'm going to give the Well-Tempered Clavier a 4 out of 5. Certainly another solid episode to watch. If you'd like, you can leave me a comment and tell me what you thought of this episode and if you're satisfied with how the first season has progressed. And as always, thank you very much for watching.